well, I don't like to read. I like to look at things on my phone instead. Well, then you can read articles in Spanish on your phone. They have this thing called the internet. You can read basically anything that you want on there. Hola amigos, Sean from Spanish 55 here, and in this video, 4.5 tips to help you speak Spanish like a native. If you're a native English speaker learning Spanish, give it the thumbs up down below because I know that these tips are going to help you. I speak 5 languages, y claro que uno de esos es español. This video is designed to highlight some of the differences between English and Spanish and tell you how you can use those differences to your advantage to learn how to speak Spanish like a native. Bienvenidos al video. Tip número 1. Get used to masculine and feminine early on. Masculino y femenino. Spanish has masculine and feminine nouns while English does not. You don't have to worry about that. Masculine nouns in Spanish are preceded by el or un, and feminine nouns in Spanish are preceded by la or una. With a few exceptions, but that's another topic for another day. Masculine and feminine also applies with adjectives you use to describe people. Yo soy alto, ella es alta, él está cansado, ella está cansada, etc. Be conscious of this masculine versus feminine and practice it, focus on it when you're speaking early on. That way you get it ingrained into your brain. That way down the road, it just comes naturally. Tip number 1B, and this is what I meant by 4.5 tips, is to do the same thing with the pronouns. Learn the Spanish pronouns early on and focus on them right away. That way you get them ingrained into your brain. Pronouns are important in every language, and Spanish is no exception. Pronouns might literally and figuratively seem small, but they can be very important and difficult even for more advanced non-native speakers like me. For example, I still get confused sometimes when I'm listening to native Spanish speakers, and one of them will say something like, pues le dijo que iba a decírselo, pero no se lo dijo. And I'm left there standing like, what? Who told who what, or didn't tell who? And are they guys or girls? Are you referring to me in the usted form? I don't know what just happened. And believe it or not, a lot of highly advanced non-native speakers of English or Spanish or whatever the language may be still every now and then make these little mistakes where they'll say he instead of she, or él instead of ella in the case of Spanish, and they don't even really realize it. I still do it occasionally in Spanish. I hear people do it all the time in English and Spanish and many other languages. And if you want to sound like a native speaker, these are little mistakes that you're not going to be able to make. And that's why I recommend that you really focus from the beginning on these pronouns and these little small things that don't seem like a big deal, but they really are. Tip número 2. Read your way to correct pronunciation. What am I talking about? Spanish words sound exactly the way they are written, which is not the case in English. In English, we have at least 14 vowel sounds. Every one of the 5 vowels can make like 3 different vowel sounds or even more than that. Whereas in Spanish, each one of the 5 vowels makes one simple, consistent sound. Same thing goes for consonants. In English, many of the consonants can make several different sounds, whereas in Spanish, they pretty much all just make one sound. And that's one area where Spanish is a lot easier than English.
Oh, that's great news!
What this means is that once you know how all the Spanish letters sound, you'll know how to properly pronounce a word just by reading it. In English, al contrario, you have to hear someone say it out loud before you know for sure how to pronounce it. So read more in Spanish. And if you're one of those people that's like, well, I don't like to read, I like to look at things on my phone instead. Well, then you can read articles in Spanish on your phone. They have this thing called the internet, which your phone has access to, and you can get access to any article that you want. You can read basically anything that you want on there. Drop a comment down below if you have any suggestions for what people should read in Spanish. 10-second break for a quick shout out to Arlena Dunning. Arlena is a Spanish 55 student and a self-proclaimed lifelong learner. Arlena, we need more people with your attitude. Tip número 3. Don't be overwhelmed by all of the verb tenses. And if you didn't give the video a thumbs up at the beginning, do it now because I'm telling you not to worry about all those complicated verb tenses. I'm a polyglot and I have no idea what some of those complicated tenses are called, but I do know how to use them properly. And the reason I know how to use them properly is by listening to native speakers. I've learned how to use them properly naturally by being exposed to the language a lot, which is what you need to do too. Spanish has 14 total verb tenses. In English, if you Google it, it says there are only 3 main verb tenses, but then there are apparently 12 total. Like I said, I'm not even sure. And this is an area that kills so many native English speakers trying to learn Spanish. The verb tenses, the conjugations, the verb charts, all the different complex forms, preterite, imperfect, whatever. It's so difficult for so many native English speakers, and it discourages and overwhelms so many of you, right? I've seen it before. But don't worry too much about it. Don't worry about knowing the names of all these tenses or exactly how they all work. What I want you to do is to expose yourself to the language more and more, listen to native speakers as much as you can, and with that, you'll naturally pick up on these complex tenses. And to be honest, I hear some native speakers a lot of times who don't even have the correct forms of habría versus hubiera or estuviera versus estaría and all these complex Spanish verb tenses. So if you're a non-native speaker and you make a little mistake with some of these more complex verb tenses, no pasa nada. What you should do is master a couple of the most important verb conjugations. And if you want some extra help with that, you should check out Anna's videos on Spanish 55 for present tense, AR, IR, and ER verbs, as well as past tense, imperfect versus preterites. Which brings me to tip numero cuatro. Master the most commonly used irregular verbs. And I know you guys all just changed your thumbs up to thumbs downs. I'm sorry. I know that figuring out those irregular verbs sucks, but a lot of the most commonly used verbs in Spanish are irregular. Ser, estar, ir, tener, ver. I could go on and on. If you want to finally figure out ser and estar after years and years of trying and failing, check out Anna's video on that. She's also got a video on the most commonly used irregular verbs. And if you really want to master them, get a Spanish tutor. Check out the previous video I made on what to look for in a Spanish tutor. Go to Spanish55.com for a free consult. That's it for this video. For more similar tips, check out my do's and don'ts for beginners learning Spanish video. Drop the video the thumbs up if you haven't already. Maybe change it back from the thumbs down. I don't know. Don't hate on me so much for that tip numero cuatro. Drop a comment down below if you feel like there's anything that I missed, anything you agree with, disagree with, any other differences or similarities between Spanish and English you want to talk about, or if you just like learning Spanish and want to make a comment about it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hasta pronto.